Okay, well, I'm back. Lost power yesterday because there was a ice and snowstorm that came out of left field, and I live in the country, so that's just how shit happens. Sometimes you lose power. So that being said, let me keep going on this whole thing about what we should actually be concerned about and things like that, and we'll cover some more stuff here. Um, yeah, and to someone's point that they did uh, make on the live stream yesterday, yeah, it's concerning that single entities have access to the federal treasury system and those types, but it's concerning to me that that's been happening for God knows how long, and I had never even heard or thought about this until very recently. It's not like this is a first of that someone suddenly got access to these systems. There was a person in charge that decided to retire or whatever based on the way things are going. So, um, you know, it's concerning on lots of levels. Let's just leave it there. But just again, overall, from the live stream session I had yesterday to follow up there, there's a lot of things that are going not necessarily correctly or being done correctly, I guess is the most smarter way to say it. There's a lot of interesting things that are taking place. However, as a taxpayer, I would love to see our tax system optimized, and I would love to see the money go where it needs to go to take care of Americans first, and then help out where we can on other things. And I mean, I look at the fraud, waste, and abuse websites all day long. I don't look at what the news tells me because that's bullshit. But like, we spend a lot of money on a lot of dumb stuff. And last time I checked, I live in the United States, so I'd like to take care of the U.S. first, and then help others after we get our stuff right. Let's go a little further into the rabbit hole on some of the other stuff that's going on Capitol Hill, because everyone wants to talk about that. So why not? I feel like I'm a relatively informed individual that could make some, maybe some useful statements on that for people. Josh Hawley, senator, has also put out a bill. Let me read you through this. This is on 404media.com, which is actually usually pretty legit and getting you sort of a quick synapse on things. So Senator Hawley proposes jail time for people who download DeepSeek. Now, just FYI, DeepSeek is currently the #1 most downloaded application in the United States. If you were to say, let's jail people who put DeepSeek onto a device, that'd be about 3 million people as of today. Pretty sure we can't do 3 million people's worth of arrests today, but let's go a little further into this because, yeah. Republican Senator from Missouri, Josh Hawley, has introduced a new bill, and I'll read the bill here in a second, that would make it illegal to import or export artificial intelligence products to and from China, meaning someone who knowingly downloads a Chinese-developed AI model like the now immensely deeply popular DeepSeek, say that 5 times fast, could face up to 20 years in jail, $1 million fine, or both. Kevin Bankston, a senior advisor on AI governance at the Center for Democracy and Technology, told 404 Media, it is, quote, a broad attack on the very idea of scientific dialogue and technology exchange with China around AI. So just taking one snap away from this, and I'll talk about the language of the bill here in a second, like, Hawley's somebody that doesn't really understand technology, #1, and he's putting this bill together with a bunch of other people that don't understand technology. So let's just say the way that this thing is written, it talks about AI related technology from China, whatever. TikTok has got machine learning models that are applied within it that come from ByteDance, which is China. So hundreds of millions of Americans potentially would fall under that whole thing as far as the way that this bill is written. So we're going to jail hundreds of millions of Americans for 20 years for downloading TikTok. There's other implications here to follow on. So let's go a little further. Hawley introduced legislation titled the Decoupling America's Artificial Intelligence Capabilities from China Act, on Wednesday of last week. So, yeah, every dollar and gig of data that flows into Chinese AI are dollars and data that will ultimately be used against the United States. I don't fundamentally disagree with that. It's a little bit alarmist, but okay. Senator Hawley said in a statement, America cannot afford to empower our greatest adversary at the expense of our own strength. Ensuring American economic superiority means cutting off China from American ingenuity and halting the subsidization of CCP innovation. Now, you could argue that that's pretty accurate. China is what we would consider I don't know if necessarily it's categorized as an enemy nation state, but they are a nation state that is not friendly to the United States, and they do want to be the dominant superpower in the world, which means we would lose. Okay, agree with that in principle. We subsidize a lot of stuff for China. We do a lot of business with China. We, have a lot of technology that we get from China. If you're going to stop AI, you'd better stop a whole bunch of other stuff too, because the web gets really deep quick. Hawley's statement explicitly says that he introduced legislation because of the release of DeepSeek, an advanced AI model that's competitive with its American counterparts, which its developers claim was made for a fraction of the cost, which we've now found out is pretty much bullshit. And without access to as many advanced sets of chips, which again we found is bullshit as well. And it basically caused stock markets to plummet. So my 2 cents here, as someone that does a lot of work in and on Capitol Hill, is people that are losing money because of the DeepSeek market manipulation, which, let's be honest, like there was market manipulation going on. And if I'm China, that's probably the thing I'm doing first, because it's better to tank the American economy than it is to worry about this AI thing. And it did cause a massive hit on NVIDIA and other stocks as well. And then, a few days later, we found out that the majority of the stuff they said we built it for $5 million or whatever was a bunch of horseshit. So that falls under market manipulation, in my humble opinion. And that's where Hawley probably got pinged by a bunch of folks that said, hey, you're willing to go, to the floor with this and, throw it out there. So write up a bill and let's put this in front of people because it looks good. Hawley's bill names were covered credulously on Fox News. Okay, but even if you think the bill's goals are worth pursuing, the actual language of the bill, which is what I'm talking about, is broad and dystopian, which, yeah. Unlike legislators who fear-mongered about TikTok and wanted to ban it, Hawley's bill would criminalize the activity of average users, millions of whom download DeepSeek recently. Specifically, the bill prohibits, and this is where the language is the problem. Again, for people that don't understand technology, the importation into the United States of artificial intelligence or generative artificial intelligence technology or intellectual property, intellectual proprietary developed or produced in the People's Republic of China. Those who violate this, quote, shall be subject to the criminal penalties set forth in subsection B of Section 1760 of the Export Control Reform Act of 2018. 50 U.S. Code 4018. That law states a person who willfully commits, willfully attempts to commit, or willfully conspires to commit, or aids and abets in the commission of an unlawful act described in Section 1 shall be fined not more than $1 million. In the case of the individual, shall be imprisoned for not more than 20 years or both. So the fact that it has the word could in it is where things get weird. So it appears that it could apply to someone who downloaded DeepSeek knowing that it was from China. And yes, the criminal penalty for that under this proposal would be $1 million or 20 years in prison, and also potential civil penalties as well, which may require less proof of state of mind and may potentially even reach more accidental importer of Chinese stuff. So, like, I'm not a lawyer, but I understand language. And when you look at this and you look at the bill, and I've read through the whole thing already, the language that's used here is very broad in nature, which is a problem. If you're going to talk about putting people in prison and fining them $1 million and civil penalties for doing something like downloading a piece of software, it had better be really, really specific, because, again, you're talking about millions of people, potentially hundreds of millions of people. This is not going to get approved, I really hope, because it shouldn't, but it's just more proof of the people at the top. And I, again, I'm not partisan, don't understand what the fuck they're doing and what they're writing. And I've got the bill. Let's see. So Senator Hawley's decoupling America thing, prohibit the import or export to China of artificial intelligence technology. Okay, well, define artificial intelligence technology. Is that a line of code? Is that a chip? Is that a Kubernetes cluster? Is that the list is so huge and it's not well defined that that's a problem. Prohibit American companies from conducting AI research in China or in cooperation with Chinese companies, and prohibit U.S. companies from investing money in Chinese AI development. Full text of the bill is available here, which I will share with people. It's 21 pages. Majority of it seems like it was written in crayon because it's pretty dumb, but So just according to the bill, artificial intelligence, right? The term artificial intelligence, and this is line 2 and 3, have the meanings given those terms in Section 2741, Title 18 U.S. Code is added by Section 3. And if you're never familiar with the way things work on Capitol Hill, like you've got to do a bunch of sleuthing to figure all this stuff out. The term artificial intelligence or generative artificial intelligence technology or intellectual property means technology or intellectual property that could be used to contribute to intelligence or generative artificial intelligence capabilities. Now, could is a problem when you use that word, that language. Could be a lot of fucking things. Again, if I come up with an interesting piece, a line of code that changes something in a model, that could be part of that. What if I share it with a friend that I knew from 10 years ago that was born in America, raised in America, and happened to move to China for whatever reason? Like, there's so many ins and outs of this that it's problematic the way that this thing is written. Chinese entity of concern. The term Chinese entity of concern has a meaning given in Section 2741, Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 4. Interest. The term interest with respect to an entity, which I just said, includes an interest in the entity held directly and indirectly through any chain of ownership, or held as a derivative financial instrument or other contractual agreement with the entity, including any financial instrument or contract. Military, civil, fusion strike, intellectual property. And here's again, intellectual property. The term intellectual property means any work protected by copyright, any property protected by a patent granted by the U.S. Patent Office, any word, name, symbol, or device, or any combination thereof. So yeah, the term technology, right, includes any, and it goes through a whole bunch. Any goes through a whole bunch. Could, like, this is not written well. This is written where it is so broad in nature with such generic terms that I would say pretty much everyone in the United States is probably guilty right now as of today, because of the way that this thing is written. So this is a massive problem. By the way, I have this camera now that has a gimbal on it, so it's cool because it tracks me, but then I move around a bit, so it gets a little bit wonky. Anyway, if you get motion sickness, turn off the video. So there's a problem with Senator Hawley's bill. Again, there's stuff going on Capitol Hill that is moving too fast with people that don't know what they're doing that's causing turmoil. Let's just leave it there. Yes, so I'm going to go a little further down into some of the other things that we should talk about. Where did I put the article? Yes, so there's an article in Engadget, protecting the U.S. from hackers apparently isn't in Trump's budget. And there's a bit of spin in this. Ian Carlos Campbell, CISA, is reported now subject to the buyout program. Doesn't really, again, the title of the article puts some spin on that. So let's just run through this intelligently here. Members of the Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity, CISA, basically are being forced, not being forced, they're being offered choice to choose between staying their jobs or taking government buyout. The buyout program is one of several methods the current administration is employing to shrink the federal government. About 1.7% is what I've seen under the guidance of DOGE, which, whatever, there's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse, and there's people that probably want to retire. Matter of fact, I was talking to someone 2 days ago that they were actually pretty stoked that they were going to get an early retirement. So, okay. Let's see. So, yes, I don't know why my computer did that. Oops, I jumped to the wrong article. It happens anyway. CISA was created during the first Trump administration in 2018 to protect key infrastructure from cyber attacks and advise the government and its partners, which I would argue CISA, while well-intentioned, has not done a whole lot operationally to do much. They haven't been critically effective, in my opinion. So here's more. The consequences of hollowing out or effectively eliminating key government agencies and departments don't seem to be a concern of DOGE or the Trump administration. I don't know that I agree with that because, yeah, whatever. And again, not partisan. Along with CISA, staff at the IRS, CIA, Department of Education have received the buyout ultimatum. Not an ultimatum, it's an offer. They have a choice. The offer, see, there's the next word, gives government employees until midnight on February 6th, which they've extended that. I saw that this morning, to accept a buyout and receive pay through October, or come back to work in person. Now, you can, and I agree with coming back to work in person, I think is not necessarily well intentioned. I think that it's not a good use of resources. I think we should be downsizing and getting rid of a lot of the buildings that we have and those types of things because they're not needed. We've proved that during COVID. And if people can work remotely and do their job, then fine. Now, there's a whole other argument you could put in there about whether or not people are actually doing their job and they're not sitting at home drinking margaritas. But if you're doing your job and you can work remote, I don't give a fuck if you work from the moon, to be perfectly frank, as long as you do your job. The deal mirrors a similar offer of trust Musk made to Twitter employees after he acquired them, basically even down to the language describing it as a fork in the road. So they probably borrowed from that. The government hasn't set aside money to pay a bunch of employees to do nothing for 8 months, and it's not clear it plans to because Congress ultimately controls government spending. Beyond that, a legal fight making the whole thing moot is possible. Yeah, so it's not all finalized yet, but just understand, like, and tell people that you talk with. And again, in my opinion, when they read this stuff, read the whole article, read it from 2 or 3 different places, read it from non-affiliated publications, and then look at the language that's being used specifically. Because like I said, in that article, it says ultimatum. And then the next sentence says the choice. Well, you can't say it's an ultimatum if if there's a choice there. I mean, you could, but let's be real about it. Like, you can make an ultimatum, but if you're offering me a choice, I have a choice. If I worked for the government for 25 years before and I went to the office every day and I never bitched about a problem, then COVID hit and now they're asking me to go back. If I want to keep my job, I go back to work. I mean, that's just what it is. Or if you don't like it, retire, get out, go get a civilian job that will let you work remotely. It's not like someone's holding a gun to anyone's head here. So I also wanted to go into this article on Wired, which you should totally read. Meet the hired guns who make sure school cyber attacks stay hidden. An investigation into more than 300 cyber attacks against K-12 schools over the past 5 years shows how schools can withhold crucial details from students and parents whose data was stolen. Yeah, this is really interesting stuff, and it basically goes into that there's kind of a cabal of folks that are doing this stuff. So here, let's run through this. Schools have faced an onslaught of cyber attacks since the pandemic. An in-depth analysis chronicling more than 300 school cyber attacks for the past 5 years reveals the degree to which school leaders in virtually every state repeatedly provide false assurances to students, parents, and staff about the security of their sensitive information. At the same time, consultants and lawyers steer, quote, privilege investigations, which they keep details hidden from the public. In more than 24 cases, educators were forced to backtrack months, and in some cases more than a year later, after telling communities that sensitive information, which included in part special education accommodations, mental health challenges, and student sexual misconduct reports, had not been exposed. While many school officials offered evasive storylines, others refused to acknowledge basic details. Even when hackers made that information public. The hollowness in schools' messaging is no coincidence. That's because the first people alerted following a school cyber attack are not the public nor the police. District incident response plans place insurance companies and their phalanxes of privacy lawyers first. They take over the response with a focus on limiting schools' exposure to lawsuits by aggrieved parents or employees. The attorneys, who are often employed by a handful of law firms dubbed, quote, breach mills by a law professor for their massive caseloads, hire the forensic cyber analysts, crisis communicators, and ransom negotiators on school's behalf, placing the discussions under the shield of attorney-client privilege. Not just because people may not know this, if I'm talking to an attorney about something and I have a question and I give them $1, we're basically under attorney-client privilege. Like, there are folks that I know that are lawyers that if I'm having a conversation with them, they'll say, dude, give me $1, because then we've exchanged money and it falls under attorney-client privilege. So that's kind of what they're talking about that's happening here. And I'll share this article with everybody, it's a growth industry. Data privacy, compliance, and school security is a growth industry for specialized lawyers who control and manage the narrative. The public is often unaware when school officials quietly agree in closed-door meetings to pay the cyber gains ransom demands in order to recover their files and unlock their computer system. Research suggests that the surge in incidents has been fueled, at least in part, by insurers' willingness to pay. Hackers themselves have stated that when a target carries cyber insurance, they are basically guaranteed to get paid out. So you could go read through this whole thing yourself. I'm not going to read through the entirety of it here. It's a pretty long article, but I have kids that are in school, and there's like the issue. My school has been breached. It had a ransom event during COVID as well. The issue that we have here, and again, this goes back to the compliance conversation, this goes back to legality conversation, etc. If people are doing this stuff at this level and it is illegal in concept and theory, what does that say about what's going on here? And doesn't that show that there's a bigger issue? There's no accountability. The compliance initiatives are not making the difference we would hope. I mean, COPA is a compliance initiative. PII is a compliance initiative. HIPAA, HITRUST, those types of things. All of those fall into these school systems. And if people are lying to get past it, that's a problem. Decide for yourself, but ask these questions of the people that are, at your schools, if you ask me. Again, some positive news. Strong DM survey reveals 81% of organizations have embraced zero trust for cloud security. Cool. So here's some takeaways. 81% of organizations have fully or partially implemented zero trust model, with 19% still in planning phase, 22% reported some internal resistance, and 48% cited cost. Sure. Cloud-specific security, 84% of our organizations are actively pursuing zero trust for cloud security. Hooray. Database security, 89% of organizations develop or applying zero trust for database security. Cool. Challenges and gaps still exist, etc. The big problems are fragmented tools, database security, which has got lots of gaps, multi-cloud management. The good news is a lot of organizations are adopting ZT. The reality of it is that there are troubles and problems and things that are going to get in the way. The truth of the matter is that there are technologies that you could employ which would help you better achieve zero trust. So hooray, huzzah, go get you some ZT. Like that's the thing. There you go. And I've got the actual survey here, which is 18 pages, solid stuff. Critical Linux zero-day attack. U.S. government says act now. Well, if the government says it, you better do it. The security vulnerabilities are dropping thick and fast. Moment 2 high security issues impacting 3 billion Chrome web users. Which, if you're using Chrome, which I use Chrome, you should have recently got a thing that says new Chrome available. Click the button and go update your Chrome. Trust me, it's worth it. Just go do it. It takes seconds. Don't be fucking lazy. Go update your Chrome. Windows users warned about a critical account takeover authentication bypass bug, and Macs get hacked too, folks. Confronted with the truth that even they cannot escape security alerts. So the Linux kernel zero day, CISA put this in the KEV. It's CVE 2024-553-104, which describes as a Linux kernel out of bounds write vulnerability. Has been added to the government KEV based on evidence of active exploitation. This is very bad news, as these types of escalation privilege vulnerabilities are a frequent attack vector for malicious cyber actors, so it means they can do privilege escalation. It's also a zero day, which means there's not necessarily a control for it. Google patched the vulnerability for Android users February 3rd, described that particular CVE as leading to, quote, physical escalation of privilege with no additional execution privilege needed, so that's bad. In plain English, what this means is that an attacker could potentially execute arbitrary code or conduct a denial of service attack, neither of which are welcome on a Linux server. As Ian Thompson, writing at the Register, said, this sounds like someone being able to plug a malicious gadget, perhaps something law enforcement might use, into a vulnerable Android device and taking it over. CISA gives federal agencies 3 weeks to patch the Linux thing. There is a binding operational directive in place that dictates federal agencies must now remediate the risk from this thing, patch their things within 3 weeks. CISA has, quote, strongly urged, which I don't understand, strongly urging your CISA, you tell them to fucking do it. All organizations to reduce their exposure to cyber attacks by prioritizing timely remediation. That's part of what I'm talking about when I say that there's a problem with like the way things are structured. Your CISA, you're set up by the DHS. You're supposed to be able to say, do this, not I strongly urge you to. People can always come back and go, look, there's a reason we can't patch this. There's I don't know, critical system, whatever, but fine, that's an exception to the rule. The rule is, I'm CISA, I have the authority. I tell you to do it because it's a risk, you do it. There you go. Like that's how this, leadership thing is supposed to work. Crazy concept, I know. Okay, really don't like covering partisan stuff. I don't like talking about politics. I think two-party systems like picking a dog turd up from the clean end. No matter what, you get shit on your hands. But like, just for the folks that sent me the DMs and whatever else, I hope that you've gotten some value from this. The truth of the matter is, there's lots of change going on. You can argue either way, some good, some bad, whatever. As a taxpayer, I would like to see things optimized and know where the money's going that makes sense. Because if just go do your own research and look at stupid government programs that are wasting money, and I mean like flat out just dumb shit, you'd be amazed. And it's not like $100 here and there. We're talking hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. Just look it up. Partisan stuff is going to continue to be partisan stuff, whether or not you like Trump or Musk or blah blah blah. They were elected. They're in place. They're doing what they were said they were going to do, I guess. So that's what's up. It's not brand new though. Like the clearance stuff, the access to systems, the changes, the way that this is all working, again, not well managed, not well messaged. There's not enough cyber in our federal government leadership, if you ask me. There's not enough cyber executive orders. Glad to volunteer to help out with that. Matter of fact, I wrote what I think is a pretty good next executive order. Please feel free to use it. But yeah, there we are. That's what I think about things. Hopefully this is helpful. If there's other questions you have or other concerns or whatever, let me know. And I'll try and put those together. One thing somebody did ask me to do on a DM level was to put together a short, 30-minute session on kind of best practices for home on cyber. So I'll do that. And I'm actually going to talk about some of the technology that I use. Nobody's paying me for this. I'm not endorsed here. This is not a sponsored thing. I just use it because I've evaluated it. It works for me. So if you're interested in that, listen to it. And, hopefully. Anyway, God bless. Stay smart. Stay safe. Stay secure. I'll catch you on the next one.